One of my most popular videos is stop using divs, and I look back at it and I thought it could be refined a little bit. I've come a long way since then, and of course I've got a lot more handsome, so I thought we'd go over it, get straight to the point, and a slightly better quality video. So ultimately what I was trying to explain was that content on your website has meaning. The reason why you don't use divs everywhere is because we want to give information to things like Google's SEO spiders, screen readers as well, and it helps things understand how your content is broken up and what your content means. And whenever I go onto a Webflow website, it's divs within divs within divs. It's crazy. No one really knows how to properly use the div block element. So a div is short for division, and it does not give any semantic meaning to the content within that div. When we create a div, if you go up to here, when you click this drop down, you get a set of elements that you can change a div block to. You've got header, footer, nav, etc., etc. Do actually have a description below, which is really helpful, but I think we can give a little bit more detail to each of these things. So as I say, div is semantically meaningless. It does not mean anything. It's just sectioning. It's used for styling. It's used for framing and positioning all of your content. A header is normally where you would place kind of the main navigation of the page, kind of normally at the top of the page. But it can also be used as a header for a section. Similarly, footer, normally at the base of the page. How they came up with these HTML elements is actually because they found, well, people commonly at the top of the page, they give that element a class or an ID of header and the footer and etc. So that's kind of where we've understood the names for these elements from. Nav is your main navigation of the page. Main is the main structure of your web page. So I have created a clonable, I think it's somewhere, I'll link to it below, where this is the main content of your website. Default setup is I have a header, my main, and a footer, and everything kind of goes into the main element of the web page. Section then breaks up the main section, and within each section you should have a heading. If you're retrofitting this, then what you should think about is every time that you have a heading, wrap that in a section. That's kind of a general rule of thumb that I use. Article is a piece of content that exists on the page that has nothing to do with that page. An example of this might be a blog page, where you can see all of your blogs. Each of those individual things would be an article. Yes, they're all blogs, but the content within those blogs is completely separate from each other. A side is kind of complementary to the page itself, kind of like, here's a bit of information that might be useful, it might not, or whatever. An address is obviously quite self-explanatory, is where your address should live. And then a figure wraps an element. So you should have a figure, which is the image, and then a fig caption, which I'm surprised they don't let you do that. A fig caption can describe that image. So back to my original point, stop using divs. Hope this was clearer. Join my Discord, link in the description. And until the next time, happy no coding.